Hello, welcome to another video from the English at Penrice YouTube channel. Today we're going to be having a look at the character of Eric from J.B. Priestley's An Inspector Calls. If you're thinking about your exam, this is going to be particularly helpful for your English Literature Paper 2 Section A. Let's start by having a look at some key information about this character. So Eric, like his sister Sheila, is the son of Mr. Birling, an affluent businessman, a factory owner. So he lives a life of luxury and in some comfort as a result. Eric is an alcoholic, so he's used to hardened drinking. We get a sense of that during the celebratory engagement dinner. He is drinking more than the other characters and becomes squiffy, as his sister describes it, as a result. But later on we hear him admitting to drinking a lot on the nights he met Eva, and also asking if he can have a drink before he is posed questions from the inspector for his interrogation. Mrs. Birling's quite surprised to hear that Eric is an alcoholic, but Gerald and Sheila are both well aware of his issues. He admits during his interrogation that he forced Eva to allow him into her lodgings, so he becomes quite threatening and aggressive towards her, threatening to make a row, he admits, to cause a scene, perhaps causing great embarrassment on her part, and so she lets him in and they begin a sexual relationship, which results in her pregnancy, of course. He attempts to provide some financial support at that time when she becomes pregnant. However, the only access to money he has is through his father's business. So as part of his interrogation, he also confesses to stealing money from the office of his father's factory. Of course, then Eva, when she finds out that it's stolen money, refuses to take any more of it. He is treated as very immature and childlike by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Birling. He's belittled by them, patronised by them, especially by his father, who's often quite sarcastic and scathing towards him, and treats him as if he's a child rather than an independent young man. When he's interrogated by the inspector, he does fully appreciate and acknowledge his responsibility in Eva Smith's suicide. He appreciates how immoral his actions were, and he does show remorse. He also appreciates how immoral his family, especially his mother and father, how their actions were incredibly unjust and thoughtless too. He becomes very, very frustrated with them, especially his mother, as a result. Okay, so why is Eric crafted in this way by Priestley then? So Priestley uses Eric to represent a younger generation, so along with Sheila, who are more open to social reform, so to change in the English society. So we know that he's writing in 1945 when a Labour government is elected and social change happens as a result. So Eric is representative of a population, a rich section of the population, but nonetheless a section of the population who are able to be more open-minded, to be more thoughtful of the working classes, and to move away from the inequality and the rigid class structure of the Edwardian era, but to adopt in the future a more socialist outlook and a fairer way of living for everybody in society, so the working classes and the middle and the upper classes. The second thing we'll go over today then is some key quotes for Eric's character that you can use to support your analysis of him. So let's have a look at that first quote there. He's described in the opening stage directions by Priestley as not quite at ease, half shy, half assertive. This might come as quite a surprise to the audience, who are presented at the start of the play with a family celebrating an engagement of their daughter Sheila to Gerald Croft. They're living quite clearly a life of luxury. There's solid furniture in the house. They're drinking champagne and port, and there's cigars being offered. So we would expect everybody to be very comfortable, very open, very relaxed. However, Eric is not. He's not quite at ease. So he's very, he's not comfortable. in the situation that he finds himself in. You might suggest maybe that this is because of his family, the way they treat him. Perhaps he's not able to be himself and open and with his feelings and views, but also could hint at the secrets that he holds from his family, secrets to do with stealing his father's money and also his relationship with Eva. So he's only half assertive. So unlike his father, who is incredibly verbose, incredibly forthright and assertive, so not afraid to share his views at all, Eric only finds the confidence to do that now and again, and perhaps with the added help of the alcohol that he drinks. The second quote shows that Eric has the potential to appreciate a socialist point of view. He asks, why shouldn't they, by they he means the female workers at Mr. Birling's factory, try for higher wages? We try for the highest possible prices. So what's interesting here is through that question, he rejects the idea that there's a difference and that there's an inequality between the working classes and the upper middle class. So he appreciates that they, the affluent businessmen, attempt to maximise their profits and benefit financially, and so he appreciates, in quite a principled way at that point, that the working class employees should be able to do the same. And in questioning his father, so through that question form used by Priestley, he shows that actually he is not happy. He's moving away from this capitalist ideology that his father exhibits, and actually he is coming to appreciate the needs and the struggles of the working class, even at the very start of the play. Then in this third quote we see a different side to Eric. He admits to the inspector that I was in that state when a chap easily turns nasty. I threatened to make a row. So we've got that adjective nasty there, and that verb threatened shows that actually there is a more aggressive side to Eric, a more hostile side to him, that's maybe accentuated and emphasised through the alcohol that he drinks, perhaps as a result of his difficult home situation where he feels that he doesn't quite belong perhaps, but certainly puts people at risk nonetheless. Unfortunately, on the night in question, the night he's being interrogated about, he threatens to make a row in the company of Eva Smith, perhaps resulting in an extremely embarrassing situation for her, and she lets him into their lodgings where their sexual relationship begins. He's clearly taking advantage of his power there as a male, as an affluent, high-status male in the town, and he takes advantage of a young, vulnerable working-class female who's lonely and in desperate need. And then the second quote sort of links to that one, and he describes Eva as pretty and a good sport, and that seems to sort of trivialise their relationship, focusing on her appearance and suggesting that perhaps it was only a physical attraction for him through that adjective pretty, but also that phrase a good sport, suggesting that Eva was able to laugh and joke in the face of adversity and when things went wrong. Unfortunately for her, that adversity, that struggle was all too clear, and was putting her at risk of becoming desperately alone and starving. But she was able to react to that politely and with a smile, which is incredibly sad. It does, however, show that there was some fondness there with Eric, although a rather immature, perhaps, way of describing her. And then we get this sense that Eric and his father have a rather strained relationship when he said, you're not the kind of father a chap could go to when he's in trouble. So they don't have a very close bond, Mr. Birling and Eric. Perhaps Eric can't share his feelings or any of his secrets with his father, which might have alleviated some of the pressure and perhaps stopped some of the immoral actions of Eric. Then this penultimate quote, the stage direction nearly at breaking point shows that he is extremely angry, mentally very, very strained, and he tells his mother, then you killed her. Yes, and you killed her, and the child she'd have had too. My child, damn you, damn you. So this is his reaction to being told that Mrs. Birling turned Eva away from her charity. And he's incredibly distraught and angry about that. He's absolutely irate that she didn't help Eva, despite being in a position to give her financial and emotional support. You could argue, perhaps as an audience, that Eric was the reason why Eva had to go to Mrs. Birling's charity in the first place, and therefore it's rather ironic that he reacts in such a way. However, we know that he does try to provide her with some financial support, and Mrs. Birling does reject her outright. The punctuation here shows just how irate and how hostile he's becoming towards his mother, and he moves towards her in a rather threatening way, quite a scary way. And then finally, at the very end of the play, we get a sense that Eric fully appreciates a socialist point of view, and perhaps the potential for society to change and move to a more equal and thoughtful society. And he says the money is not the important thing. It's what happened to the girl and what we did to her that matters. So in rejecting money as a symbol perhaps of capitalism and the priority of profit over all else, he's actually suggesting that maybe the important thing for everybody to prioritise in society, including the rich, is moral, thoughtful behaviour and compassion and collective responsibility. Finally, let's review some sophisticated vocabulary that might help enhance your analysis of Eric's character. So as we've already discussed, he seems quite uncomfortable. He's not fully relaxed and at ease around even his own family, perhaps due to the increasing awareness that he has perhaps of the differences between them and himself, or perhaps because of the secrets that he has not shared with them. Nonetheless, he's very privileged, so he's very comfortable financially and has enjoyed a life of luxury and comfort as the son of affluent parents. At times he seems quite reticent, so unwilling to share things openly. There are hints at the start that he wants to perhaps talk to Eric and Gerald and Mr. Birling about a time that he recalls, potentially with Eva, but doesn't share that memory with them. He's also maybe thinking about the potential of Mr. Birling to undermine or belittle him if he does share his views and thoughts openly. He can be seen at times as empathetic and principled. So empathetic, being able to appreciate the struggles and the situation of another. So that's particularly suggested when he questions his father about why his employees shouldn't try for higher wages. That also shows a degree of principle of honesty and integrity, that perhaps he appreciates the need for equality between everybody and the sense that everybody has the opportunity to be financially successful, perhaps not just the rich. He does come across as quite troubled at times, the alcoholism especially, and the strained relationship with his parents, perhaps having a mental impact upon him, an emotional impact on him too. He acts in an irresponsible way at times, so especially the way he interacts with Eva to begin with is rather irresponsible, and choosing to steal money to try to provide financial support could be seen as irresponsible too. Very volatile at times, so the hint that he aggressively forced his way into Eva's lodgings, the way he approaches his mother at the end in such a hostile and angry way, suggests that he has a volatile side to his personality. At times he appears a little immature. His parents certainly perceive him to be, and Eva perhaps too, because he does say that she treated him as if he was a child. So yes, suggests that maybe he has some growing up to do. However, when the inspector has finished sharing the nature of his inquiries and has finished his interrogation with Eric, Eric is very distressed by the situation, especially by his mother's decisions and immoral, thoughtless actions. He's incensed, so he's incredibly angry, and finally he is remorseful. And he appreciates that actually it's the immoral, thoughtless actions of the Birlings that need to be prioritised rather than the money or the potential to ruin their reputation. And he shows that remorse and that he appreciates that as a result. Okay, thanks very much for tuning in. That was an exploration of the character of Eric from An Inspector Calls. Do sign up to the English at Penrice YouTube channel for more videos to help you with your English language and literature revision.